I don't know about you, but I love to revisit my first deal. I talk about Norris Drive all the time. What we're going to do here is we're actually going to go back in the time machine, look at Coach Carson's first house hack, a fourplex, and really kind of just get in the time machine and then also see what's transpired over the last 18 or so years. Coach, what do you got?
Well, I thought it'd be fun, Michael. I'm working on a video on my channel where I'm going to go kind of deep dive on this, and I thought it'd be fun to show the graphs, the highlights with you guys, and just get your feedback on this. This was actually, it was not my very first deal, but it was one of my it was my first place that I lived in. It was like a true house hack where I used to live in a house with some other people, and then but
Right.
the deal was I was 26 years old, 2006. I started in 2003 or four, and I got this. I got this lead on a vacant property. Look, if you can, I don't know if you can see this on Zoom or on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Merry
Merry,
Christmas right there.
This is my Christmas present. Right after Christmas, and totally vacant. It was a foreclosure. A bank had taken it back, a local bank, as it turned out. And I had
Wow.
a friend of mine just said, "Hey, there's this vacant property. You need to go take a look at it in Clemson in your market." And I did. And if I don't, unit number three. So like there's a door open on the right. Unit number three had a chalk outline of a body in the
Oh,
in the living room.
oh my gosh.
And I think it was a joke, but I wasn't 100% sure of that. It was a little dicey, and the place had been vacant for a while. It smelled bad. It was great. It smelled like money, right? It was
Yeah.
all the things you wanted. But I wanted to tell the story about it and then show you some numbers on kind of the big picture. I was going back and looking at my folder to kind of get the original negotiation numbers. The banker is a local savings and loan. If people
Mhm.
might not heard of those are like the old school. All they do is have savings accounts, and all they do is make local loans. They had taken this back from an investor who had never finished fixing it up, and they wanted $100,000 for it. And at the time I had just finished a few flips. So I had another local bank who was willing to loan me some money. I had a private lender who was willing to loan some fix up money. And I'm offered them 55,000 for the deal. Little, one of those embarrassing offers we talk about, Michael.
Love
And
that.
they said no. We paused for a while. I kept following up. And a few weeks later, they were able to get a price approved at 70 grand to buy the whole thing. And just to give you some context, I estimated about $10,000 per unit to fix it up.
Mm.
It needed, had window units, so I installed heating and air units. We put new windows, new doors in, paint and carpet inside, new kitchen countertops, new decks on the back. So it's kind of a freshen up. It's
Mhm.
pretty extensive cosmetic rehab. But I'll show you a picture of what that looked like when we got done, and then we'll look at the numbers. So
Wow.
this
Look
is
at
it.
that.
This is a little cleaned up place. I did some landscaping, and I lived in unit number two. That's me with my car that had the "We Buy Houses" like magnetic
Yeah.
signs on it at the point.
I
So,
love that.
I was living there renting each unit for $350 per month when I first started. So
Now, are these, sorry, are these two bedrooms or what are these?
they're all two bedroom up and down. So you have like a
Okay.
bedrooms upstairs, one bigger bedroom, one small bedroom, a little tiny living room, and then a kitchen, and then one bathroom upstairs.
Got it.
So
Okay.
yeah, so it was a good starter place for me, and I rented it out to the key thing here is I'm in a college town, and I didn't know this market yet, but this is how I got into it. Was I started renting to grad students, and it was about a mile and a half from campus,
Mm.
and it was on the bus line. And so this is a I think a key business insight is that you start with your customer. I felt I was recently graduated from Clemson, so I understood what people are looking for, especially affordable rentals in town. They had
Right.
luxury rentals with the pools and all that stuff. This was something people would come and they'd say, all right, I can ride the bus to school. I might not even have to have a car. I can walk if I have to. The downtown's about a mile and a half. So I could do that. I could bike, I could walk. So it met it kind of checked those boxes of what I understood a tenant would want in that area. And so I was able to get it filled up pretty quickly. And
Mm.
this is an aside. It was a lot of fun. Like I had international grad students. So like on my left was this couple from China who were in chemistry, and another one from Ghana and Africa. And so we had like these international dinners all the time and food everywhere.
Nice.
So this is like the best. Not only was I living for free because I had $350 coming in from each unit, and my payment, so that was $1,050 a month or so. My payment after I refinanced this and did a burst strategy was about 1,090, 1,089,
Okay.
all PITI. So I
Right.
had some maintenance expenses, things like that. But for a 26-year-old living in living in unit number two, having international dinners, having fun, and basically not having a mortgage payment, like it was good times.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. All right.
So the thing I think people might be interested in, though, that's the story part of it. I lived there for a couple of years. I got married. My wife moved in with me. We lived there for about 3 years, and then we kept it
Okay.
as a rental. So like that's the cool thing. It starts as a house hack, but what I wanted to see, I was like, how good of a deal was this? I have kind of a romantic like look back. Oh,
Yeah.
that's my first house hack. But like, what has this property done since then? So I posted this on Twitter, got a little bit of kind of conversation going. But some of the cool thing was the price that it was worth when I first started, when I fixed it up, was about 155,000.
Okay.
So I had 120 or so in it. So I had about 80% of the value of the property. And so but from 155 has grown to somewhere between 350 to 400,000 bucks, somewhere in there. That's like the top end 405, maybe today, 350 on the lower end.
Okay.
So it's grown about like 4.5%, 5% per year, which that was one of the things I wanted to study in this neighborhood. Like how, the background kind of appreciation rate in Clemson in my area is about 3%, somewhere in there for properties. So this is above average. This is, this part of Clemson, this area, this type of product did better than average on the appreciation. And then the rent, which is also interesting. I did a little graph here, started off about a couple of years after I moved out. We had $1,400 per month in rent total between all of them after I get my unit rented out. And today it rents for $720 per unit, or $2,880. So I think we're a little under rent. It's probably almost $3,000 or so. So, the rent's doubled in 18 years, which is about a 4% growth rate on the rent as well.
Wow. Very, very cool.
Have you ever seen the numbers on some of yours? Because you and I started about the same time. Because one of the things I was curious to talk to you about was like, here's one of my first deals. Here's kind of how I built my foundation. I've also had some single family houses. Have you ever looked at the growth rate over time of the rent or the price on your properties? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, I certainly have. I mean, I've looked at Norris Drive, which is my first purchase. So we bought that December, I think, of 2002. Norris Drive is a crazy story because its value, because again, I bought before the run up. So it goes from 107 grand in 2002. I sell it for roughly 265 4 years later.
Mm-hmm.
It ultimately peaks at 300 in 2006. Then, coach, it crashes to 75.
Oh, wow.
All the way to 75. So below my purchase. And then it spends, the next 15 years climbing, and now it's like 365 or something like that. But now let's talk about rent. So the rent was 1,100 when I bought. It was still 1,100 when I sold. So we had flat rents for 3 years. It's funny enough, rents were still 1,100 when it crashed to 75. So that was like 7 years we had no rent growth. Today, that place rents for probably 2,800, 2,700, something like that. So it's a lot of rent growth the last decade, but we had flat rents for, I don't know, 7, 8 years.
That's one of the things I wanted to show people with graphs. Like it was really interesting. I mean, part of this is like I didn't always up my rents, but I had the exact same experience. Like 2002 to 2007, none of my rentals they were pretty flat. I mean, in fact, it was not a great rental market because all your renters,
all your best renters
were buying houses. They were buying, they didn't want to.
Exactly.
So you had to be a landlord. It was a little bit like counterfactual. It's like, oh, really? You're going to hold that property, like no cash flow and all that. Yeah. And so it was kind of you bought just having to hope that sometime that went up. But the way the rents are, they go through these plateau periods and then they go through these really steep run-ups. Like look at 2018 and 19. Like part of that was I started outsourcing my management, but also the rents were going up a lot in those years, and then it goes flat again. Like right now it's not going up that much. So it's just something to think about. Like as a landlord, you're not going to have like these steady 2%, 3%, 5% growth. It's going to go in these big spurts. And to benefit from these big long-term patterns, you got to be a buy and hold investor. Like
absolutely.
You got to just hold for the long
decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the other interesting thing about this, Michael, is this graph that I want to share with you. So I had a conversation with a friend of mine on my podcast, and he said he went and looked at all his deals and his clients' deals. He's a real estate agent, kind of an investor analysis guy in Houston, Texas, area on Shihai. And he found that most of his clients over a long period of time, when they totaled up all their profits or the returns from a particular deal, that his clients over about 80% on average was from the growth of the price of the property. And cash flow is still important. Cash flow still mattered, which is still mattered. It depends on the deal, of course. And so I was like, really, 80%? Like that number seems high to me. Like, okay, but leverage, we're using leverage. And so I've been going through my own properties, and I've got several other, I've done this recently. I was like, I want to see what my properties are. And the funny thing I bought this property as a cash flow property. Like it rented for, $1,400 on a property that was worth 155, but I had 120 in it. So like I had better than the 1% rule. So cash flow deal all over it. Right. But look at like the total cash flow I made over that 17, 18 years was $53,000.
Yep.
And part of that was I had a lot of CapEx. Like it's just an older property. Yeah. This is sure. I kept on, I had good years with make $6-7 grand. And then I had bad years where I lost $1,000. And so it was a roller coaster cash flow wise. It's today, like it's better than it's ever been. Like the cash flow has kind of crescendoed and got better, better, better. But the early days, man, the first 4 or 5 years,
they suck.
Not good. And it's getting a lot better now. But about 15% of my total profit on this deal, or what I consider my wealth that I built from this deal, was from cash flow. About 5 or 6% from debt pay down, and then almost 80% was from the difference in the price today and the price I paid for it. And I don't know, I thought it was a little, should have been intuitive, but for me, that was like pretty striking that, and I've looked at some of my other deals, some of them been 60%, some have been 80%, but many of them are pretty, heavy on my growth. My wealth was built from the growth of the price of these properties.
No, I think there's a lot of wisdom that I want people to take from this chart is you got to be able to hold your properties long term to get that appreciation or growth. So they got a cash flow, right? They got a cash flow day one. Nothing annoys me more when people see charts like that and they go, "Oh, I can afford negative cash flow. I can afford an alligator." No, you don't buy assets to lose money. That just drives me crazy. But yeah, if you have cash flow day one, you can hold for 18 years, your chances of getting wealthier pretty good. I mean, frankly, I always talk about getting 4 properties, right? If you just get to 4, like if you had 4 of those, you'd be a millionaire. It's that simple.
Yep. I'd be a millionaire, and I'd have enough cash flow from those 4 properties to do a lot of things. Maybe not be like the wealthiest guy or gal in town, but I would have enough money to like
be comfortable,
financially comfortable, to have flexibility, to maybe work part-time. I mean, it's 4 properties. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I love, there's 2 other things in there that are really, I hope people grasp. First and foremost, we're lucky in the United States where we have 30-year fixed rate debt on residential properties.
Yep.
And 30-year fixed rate debt is a one-way bet. What do I mean by that? If rates go up, nothing happens to you. They can't call the loan. They can't do this. They can't do that. You're good. Your money good. And if rates go down, if they go down enough, you just refi, right? So it's a one-way bet. 30-year fixed rate debt, residential properties is a gift. And the second one is inflation's a feature, not a bug. Folks, the system is set up to inflate assets. It just is. You can yell, you can scream, you can fight it. Inflation's a feature, not a bug. And the sooner you understand that, and you can lock in with 30-year fixed rate debt, your chances of getting wealthy are virtually guaranteed if you can hold it for 18 years.
Yeah, that's the playbook. And I have a lot of people who fight that and say that's not the way it should be. We should have more cash flowing assets. They shouldn't have all this growth. Well, you know what? Like if that happens, we'll change our game plan. Like, I've bought properties purely for cash flow as well. And that's cool. Like you can buy, people who buy bonds and notes, they look at just the income on the property. That we could do that with rental properties. But if you want to play the game to win in the environment we're in with the tailwinds we have, which is the government has to print money to basically have a tax on wealth. Like you don't want to be the one taxed. Like if you want to get ahead of that, you would fix your debt for the long period of time and then buy appreciating assets, but meaning you got to buy them in the right locations. You got to buy a buy box, which we always harp on, is like, you got to buy a location that has population increasing, has good jobs. Like those things are important ingredients that you can't just get the numbers to work just with the numbers. You actually have to go to the places where the fundamentals are good. And then, Clemson, South Carolina, where I am, is a good place to invest. The university has grown. So we've had some good, but it's not like the most on fire market in the whole country. There's been places who have done a lot better than some of the numbers I'm sharing here. But what I like to give people is, like, if you're patient, as you said, if you buy and hold, if you buy in the right location. I made a bunch of mistakes on this property too. Like, I didn't show all I want to, in my video, I'm going to show a graph of like up and down cash flow and some of the stupid stuff I did, like by hiring a contractor who was kind of not that good to install my heating and air. And after 10 years, I had to install those things again because he did such a bad job. I mean, I screwed up. I did some stuff bad. And yet, look at that. You can still do pretty well over the long run. So that's hope that gives some people some hope to get started and buy and start holding those rentals.
Yeah. And again, like what we always say on this show, the first 5 years suck. That's when the cash flow is the least, is where you make mistakes, where you learn some of those lessons. But if you can hold it for a decade, I like your chances. Coach, where can they find you?
If you look on YouTube, you can go to Coach Carson. Just search for Coach Carson. I have a new video that comes out, or a new podcast every Monday. Got a lot of old videos too, just like this, where I like to run the numbers. I'm kind of a spreadsheet nerd, so you can find a bunch of these kind of videos on my channel, and then you can also find my book, The Small Mighty Investor, on Amazon and Bigger Pockets, anywhere books are sold.
There you go. Thank you, buddy. Take care.
Thanks, Michael.
All right.